It's really great to be with everyone this morning. And it's often been said that Florida Bar committees are the engine of the bar. And I think it's equally true that the sections are really kind of like turbo engines in terms of the resources and everything that you do for our members. So I want to thank everyone for their leadership that helps our legal profession. I want to just go over a few things, smaller and then bigger. So, there's so many ways that the sections help us at the big bar level. First of all, obviously, we had the comments that were done by the various sections for the work group in the improved resolution of civil cases. I never can remember that, and actually have to write it down to make sure I say it properly. And the comments and work done on those issues were very helpful, and as you all probably know, ultimately led to the court granting an extension for time for more comments and an extension of time to review all the comments that were done. And that's going to be an ongoing heavy lift. We used to have something called the COVID task force that oversaw that process at the Board of Governors level. It's been repurposed because COVID is sort of kind of over now. And we have the Special Committee on Changes to the Practice of Law that is co-chaired by Governor Say Baker Barnes and John Agnew. And we will continue to monitor that work group and other work groups of the Supreme Court. Later today, there'll be more discussions about the legislative process, but the work that the sections do is invaluable. White papers that are prepared. So make sure that your sections keep talking with each other. That is the most important thing generally, but especially in the legislative process. I'll kind of give you a quick update on a few things, and then I know President-elect Westheimer is going to talk about a few things as well, and we want to leave sufficient time for questions. Last year, then President Tanner appointed the Special Committee for the Improvement of Professionalism. And that committee worked all year long, prepared a very good report that now sits as an informational item with the Florida Supreme Court. And there were a number of suggestions how we define professionalism given changing technologies and behaviors, how we teach it to law school students, to newer lawyers, and to more experienced lawyers is the word that we use. We don't say older lawyers. We never say that. Veteran lawyers, even, if you will. And then how do we enforce it? And we really looked closely at the local professionalism panels that were created by the court many years ago by an administrative order. And there's consideration to get rid of those because they've gone dormant in many circuits. However, in some circuits, they worked extremely well. And the committee made some suggestions on retaining them, improving them, and making them uniform. The current administrative order from the court a number of years ago said every circuit is different, do your own thing. And that's what happened. So the composition, the process, the terms, the forms, very, very inconsistent. Fortunately for us, after a year of hard work by the committee that I co-chaired, we have that sitting at the court, and President-elect Westheimer is going to help move that ball forward. And you'll hear more about that in the year ahead and perhaps into President-elect Westheimer's year as president. Sometimes things move more slowly, and sometimes they move more quickly. More quickly would be the Special Committee on Mentoring. Some of you may have heard that we are trying to work on a program for lawyers 3 or less years experience at firms of 3 or fewer lawyers. These are often the lawyers who graduate law school without a job. They put up their own shingle. They go to work with a buddy of theirs who graduated a year or two beforehand, and they're not getting any real mentorship in the way that we would define it. No one's talking with them about ethics, professionalism. I got a mean email. I know, I'll send a meaner email. Now I'm a good lawyer. No one's talking about their path of their career or substantive case law. To get involved in the Florida Bar Committee sections, local voluntary bars, and that work will actually be completed by the Special Committee on Mentoring by the end of this calendar year. It's co-chaired by former YLD presidents Catherine Hurst Miller and Zach Zerwest, and it's just really going to, I think, be a difference maker for our newer lawyers that are on their own. And we'll have that done by the end of this calendar year, voted on by the Board of Governors, and then we'll actually start implementing first thing next calendar year, 2023. So we will be off to the races. And that's a pretty good turnaround time. One of the other priorities this year is called Life Legal Moments. You maybe haven't heard about it if you weren't at annual convention or didn't read one or two articles in the Bar News. But that's going to roll out in October. And while we're also working on greater access to legal services, which I'll circle back on, there's really two sides of this, right? The lawyers and the public. We would like lawyers to have more clients. Most importantly, we have to serve the public to make sure that their legal needs are being met, which is not the case. And this is not an old problem. This isn't a new problem. It's an old problem, decades. Not a Florida problem. It's a national problem. 30 years ago, you went to your lawyer's office and you got a will. It doesn't happen anymore. So Life Legal Moments focuses on when you really do need a lawyer to make sure you have a properly prepared will or trust, when you sell a home, other things that could affect you. And we lawyers can get on a committee meeting or a Zoom call and talk about things, but this is aimed public facing to explain to the public why they actually need a lawyer. 80% of low income people think they can't afford a lawyer. It's not much better for the middle class. 60% say, they don't think they can afford a lawyer. They don't need a lawyer. Many people increasingly don't even think they have a lawyer problem. They don't have a legal problem. They have a life problem. I got a problem with my landlord. I got a problem with my boss. I'm going to talk to someone in my family, like my brother or my uncle. And it's a problem. And so Life Legal Moments is aimed directly at the public. And that'll be through traditional media means like op-ed articles and that sort of thing. But also an internet presence, very short web-based videos, banner ads, a landing page. And let's be honest, we're not going to take a problem like this and fix it all at once. But if we can move the needle 10%, that would be significant. The Supreme Court in April reached out to then President Tanner and I and said, we want the bar to really tackle greater access in general. There had been a special committee chaired by former President Jon Stewart, and John's committee made some recommendations that were considered very controversial, like owning law firms with non-lawyers, fee sharing with non-lawyers. And ultimately, after a months-long process, the Board of Governors voted unanimously against all of those recommendations. And the answer from the court was, okay, but then tell us what you think if you don't like that. We have a committee working hard on that, co-chaired by Jay Kim and Wayne Rose Smith. 3 subcommittees working on pro se, make it easier for pro se litigants to have access to the court system. We have pro bono legal aid, looking to how we can increase resources and funding and availability. And then finally, what they call low bono, but I hate that term. It's like a bar term. It's too cute. No one knows what it means except for bar people. Affordable legal services. How much does it cost to get a will? Go call 4 lawyers, and you might be told $800, $1,200, $2,000 for a simple will. It's not going to cut it. There's a lot of solutions that we're working on, including prepaid legal services, which exists and was created to provide affordable legal services. Right now, that report has to be completed for the Florida Supreme Court by the end of the year. We have not asked for an extension. We're hoping to get the work done, but it's a massive lift, including getting information from different places. There's very little Florida-specific information. The clerks all have different systems. Getting information is challenging, while at the same time trying to work on solutions. So as it stands, that report will be done by the end of this year and voted on by our Board of Governors at our December board meeting. And you'll hear more about that in the months ahead as well. That's all I wanted to touch on today. I know that President Westheimer wanted to talk on a few things. Chair Abbott, do you want me to take questions now? And then President-elect Westheimer can talk about some of the things that he has worked on and will be working on?
Yes, you can take questions now. I don't see any in the chat. Does anybody have any questions?
I know I was thorough, and I know it's a Friday morning Zoom call, but this is the time to fire away with some questions. I bet you Nick has a good question.
Howard, you have a question?
Yes, hi. Thank you for putting this together. I am the current chair of the Elder Law section, and I was just wondering if you could comment on the best way, if the section is having some challenges, to determine who at the bar should we be reaching out to in order to pursue. And I'm specifically referring to the unauthorized practice of law issue prevails in our practice area. There is a Supreme Court decision that clearly delineates what constitutes Medicaid planning by non-lawyers and is actionable. However, we're having some difficulty with enforcement. Is that something you can comment on?
Yeah. Whenever I hear that communication isn't going as ideally or perfect as we'd like, first I'm unhappy because, we want everything all communications work as well as possible. But then I'm reminded, we're all human beings and we're not going to always communicate as well as possible. So in addition to talking with you, Howard, about this offline, we have a very robust UPL process. And if that isn't happening, now we're also a complaints-driven system, less so in UPL, but still. So if there are materials that would support, a UPL, violation and ultimately action, that will happen. But sometimes people call our UPL folks and say, hey, listen, so-and-so is doing this. It happens a lot, for example, in the immigration law world, where they have folks who aren't actually lawyers, but are allowed to give limited advice in the immigration law system, who are not giving limited advice. They're not being clerical. They're doing everything. And it happens in other fields of law as well. And so I tell people, follow up with the bar, get the information there. Having a complaint is best. Having a complainant is best. Have you reached out, Howard, yet to the UPL folks, or who have you tried to reach out to?
Yeah, so we have a UPL committee that is led by John Fraser and Len Monshine. Mm-hmm. I believe complaints have been brought to the attention of the bar. And, I'd like to just connect more with you, Gary, if that's okay, to try to figure out if the bar has the wherewithal, the resources to pursue some of these issues. They are well documented, some of the cases. And what we're finding is that unless we get a private client who is willing to serve as a litigant in a civil matter, which is a much heavier lift than if the bar would take this on, we're really looking for some support here. And I'd love to be able to talk to you more about what the nuances of that might be and how we might be able to work together to collaborate. And the problem that we're experiencing is that we have this really awesome Supreme Court decision that lays out very specific parameters, but it's currently without teeth since 2015. So we'd love to beef that up and work with the bar to do that.
All right. Well, Howard, I just put my cell phone number in the chat, actually, for everyone, anyone who wants to call me or text me. One of the things that President Westheimer and I have in common, and there are many, but we're kind of like boots on the ground in terms of bar leadership. We want to be available. So I put my cell phone in the chat, whoever wants to use it. And Howard, let's try to chat today or Monday at the latest. If you could send me what you have so far or highlights of it, and I'd be happy to try to help navigate that forward. You do need a participant. You do need someone to say, this is what I saw, this is what happened. But we'll talk about that more, and I'd be happy to help.
Great. Thank you so much.
Any other questions?
All right. Well, it looks like, I couldn't have been more thorough, I guess. I put my cell phone number in the chat for a reason. It's inevitable sometimes that we have a communication interaction, and then 5 minutes later or 2 hours later, God, I had Gary right there. I could have asked him about this or that. So if at some point later today or next week, something occurs to you, like Howard just did now, feel free to reach out to me by text or by email. And glad to be with you today. And hey, President-elect Westheimer, I think I've warmed up the crowd for you.
Thank you so much, Gary.
You're welcome.
Scott.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. I think they're raring to go. So thank you, everybody. It's an honor and privilege to be here today. This is a great conference. I participated in this before. So I do not want to take up too much of your time. I know you have a long day. I just want to thank you for all you do. The Young Lawyers Division and the sections, I think, are the lifeblood of our bar. They do great work. It's really been a privilege to be the Council of Sections liaison the last 2 years. I was hoping I would do that in perpetuity, but I think you're in much better hands. I see Governor Saya Baker Barnes is now the liaison, so she'll be great for the Council of Sections. Please reach out to us. You do great work. I think we saw during the pandemic, working together, the synergy and collaboration between the sections, the bar, between the sections when they worked on projects was really beneficial to our members. I think when we help the sections, the divisions, and help your members, it helps our members. So as we go forward in this, I guess, post-COVID world, our new normal, collaboration to me is key. So please let Gary and I know what we can do to help you out. I'll put my cell phone as well in the chat. I really think working together is the way we need to do things in the future and is paramount. You heard a lot of really great things today. Just a few things that I think for your members, please try to disseminate. We have a lot of free resources from the bar for our members to really help them with their day-to-day activities, the business of law. I won't go through them all, but just some updates. The Board of Governors Technology Committee has updated the best practice guide to remote proceedings. A lot of courts use that. Please let your members know that's now on our website. We do have the Florida Bar Tech Helpline, free IT services for everybody. You have probably like a 99% satisfaction rate right now. We need more people to use it. It's free IT services, no strings attached. Please get the word out to your members. LegalFuel.com is still out there. Approximately 200 free CLE hours. They're working on a webinar series right now on cybersecurity. Please get the word out to your members. Again, that is free to help everybody out. We also have the Florida Bar Helpline, free mental health counseling, free mental health 24-hour helpline. Again, it's free and it is confidential. So thank you again. I know there's a lot to do today, so I appreciate your time. Reach out to us if we need anything, and I will see anyone at the reception. Glad to answer questions, but I think Gary took care of all of them. But anything anybody wants to reach out to me on, please let me know. I'll put my info in the chat. So thanks, everybody. Have a great conference.